Tyneside, and a poet that I have a great deal of respect for. She has this wonderful lyrical sound to her voice. Her first collection, Between the Floorboards, was just being published, and she's a winner of the Northern Promise Award and a regular performer on the Northern spoken word and poetry scene. And her poems have been published in several anthologies as well as her own collection. So please, would you please welcome Degna Stone.
I always find the introduction bit really difficult. You sit there and you think someone will talk about somebody else, so I'm going to try and live up to at least some of that. Can you hear me all right? I don't know. Okay. I also don't like microphones, they're a bit weird, so I'm a bit nervous around them. But I'll stop wittering and start the first poem. The first poem I'm going to read is like, I'm not from Newcastle. I moved up to Newcastle in the summer of 1999. I only went to visit a friend, and I was supposed to, go back home, but I never did. And it's, part of it is, the northeast is fantastic. It's got fantastic beaches, really fantastic countryside, and some really canny cities. So I just ended up staying, and this poem was about that, really. It's called Finding Home. Oh, and I assume everybody knows about the Angel of the North, and I arrived not long after that. So. I arrived with less flourish, just after the Angel. My first view of Newcastle, the West Road at night, looked like the neon-lit tracks of a roller coaster, a thrill ride. The quiet drive had begun at dusk. Roadkill marked the way. Picked out by headlights, stiffened blood glistened in the darkening light at the end of a century. Unfamiliar with iconic landmarks, witness to the city's shift through closed eyes, stranger to the smell of salt spray at the mouth of the Tyne. I didn't belong to the middle land. I belonged to the sea. I stayed. And the next poem is, it's written, it's inspired by a couple of the beaches in the northeast. It's named after Long Sands Beach, which is in Tynemouth, but I think the memories really come from going to Bamborough Beach, which is the first beach that I went to, and one of the reasons why I stayed, because it's just glorious, it's like white sandy beaches, blue seas, and just incredible landscape. So this poem is called At Long Sands, and it does rhyme, because it's a sonnet. So, The first thing she does is rush to the sea. Fully clothed, she runs too fast to be caught. Wet sand flashes like lights beneath her feet. She enters the ocean, her body taut, braced against the cold of a late May tide, a summer away from September warm. Breathless, he catches up, reaches her side as delirious shrieks turn to alarm. He sweeps her up before she is swept away. At the water's edge, the noise of the world deadened by dunes, the steady hush of waves, a lullaby to soothe his little girl. He holds her tight as his eyes trace the seam where the sky pretends to join the sea. How you don't stop getting nervous, and it's only I think about halfway through the very last poem that you kind of think, oh, I'm just easing into this now. This is going to be my longest poem. Again, it sort of rhymes. It's a sestina, so it has repeated end words, so it rhymes in a kind of way. And it's a sort of a day in the life sort of poem. I've got two small girls, and I work and trying to fit everything in. And this poem's really about that. It's called Playtime. Her alarm call, Mama, sounds through the night. Tiredness blankets my body as my brain works. How do I convince her it's too early for play? I ignore the clock's gaze, the closeness of morning. In the dark, I wonder how long to leave before going in with a shh, my love. No time to shower before breakfast. I'd love 5 minutes drenched in warm rain, but last night's dirty dishes loiter where they were left at the foot of a mountain of housework. All I want is to sleepwalk through morning, and all she wants is to play. She sleeps. I slip in earphones and press play. I sink down and invite the songs you love to become the soundtrack to my morning. Bring you home to me. The smell of last night's sex clings to my body. A sleepy tryst worked into a schedule with no time left. On Wednesdays, she cries when I leave. She's in good hands. She's in good hands. But guilt plays mind games as I close the door, go to work. Dismiss the stay-at-home option because love alone can't carry me through to the night, and the same routine returns each morning. But I'm not shrouded in black. Not mourning the hedonistic life I was happy to leave. Working for weekends, coming alive at night. Thumping bass heightened chemical euphoria plays with perception. And loved up in place of love, a quick fix that was never going to work. It's a breathing space, a break in the cycle, work. A new skin to reveal in the morning. Stepping free from the house alone, I love the slight return to myself as I leave. And it's easy. It feels like child's play. I arrive home fresh and ready for the night. Work around the tasks you can afford to leave. Search the morning's pockets for time to play. This love keeps us safe at the end of each night. I used to do a few poetry school workshops. They ran an online poetry in progress course run by Polly Clark. And one week she set us the assignment of incorporating a Ted Hughes line in a poem. Now I took exception to that because I didn't want the best line in my poem to be from somebody else's poem. So I cheated and I made it an acrostic. And an acrostic is the first letter of each line spells something. So the line that this spells is not till he flinched, nobody smiled. It's called Lying Awake at Night. No one knows what to do. Overnight, expectations alter. There is no hope of leaving now. Afterwards, you might look for a new way into this, eat too much food, always go to bed late. Forget that the kids will wake early. Forget that tomorrow you must look for a second job. Instead, lie awake. Notice that the wind plays percussion, crashes around the neighbourhood, hitting the high notes. Every sound seems 70 decibels louder in this quiet hour. Noises take on personalities of their own. Before long, you begin to think, outside is trying to get in. Despite knowing that steadfast jail locks and mortise locks still safeguard against monsters and menaces, imagined or otherwise. Laugh at your own paranoia. Edge out of bed. Double check one last time. I've timed that well then. I've got 2 left. Last springtime, late spring, it was May, just before my 3rd wedding anniversary, in a blatant bid to get out of taking me away anywhere or buying me a present, my husband got really, really ill with subacute bacterial endocarditis, which is a horrible, vicious bacterial infection that got into the lining of his heart, and he had to have emergency heart surgery to eventually get better, so that he could then take me to a nice hotel at some point. And this poem, it's kind of, there are lots of things that you just find yourself doing over and over when you visit somebody in intensive care. And so this poem is kind of like, deals with, how you get through those things. You become very self-contained and you just get on with things, and it's almost like somebody else is doing these things for you. And I'll stop wittering. This poem is called Mrs. Stone Visits Her Husband. She holds her breath as she rereads the guidelines for cleaning hands in the corridor outside Ward 26. She reaches for the dispenser, positions one hand underneath to catch the cold gel. Alcohol seeps into the broken skin of her palms. She rubs them. Fingers interlock, dance around thumbs, cradle wrists. Killing bacteria to halt the spread of infections, the sign said. She repeats the motion until her hands wring dry, the sting diminished to a memory. She holds her hands together, not praying. Protocol requires her to dress for the occasion. The clear plastic catches as she pulls. She stops, slides the roll from its cradle, turns the weight over and reinserts. The sheet runs smoothly until a snap releases her protective apron. Without thought, the gossamer burden finds its way around her neck, fastens its arms around her waist. She waits. Rereads the instruction. Press for attention and wait. The last poem I'm going to read to you shares its title with the Philip Larkin poem, which I didn't realise until I sent some of my poems off to the literary consultancy for critiquing, and they said, you know, that of course there's a Philip Larkin poem by that name, but that's not a problem, it's fine. So I didn't change it. It's called Maiden Name. Before we married, I would call you Stone and you would call me Bailey. I was tempted to keep it, but I didn't. At the moment, it is my debt name. In 5 or so years, it will be debt-free, put on a shelf, only to be dusted off when the girls open student bank accounts, a new life as a security detail. Or remembered in Durham street names, walking along the cobbles of North Bailey and down the slopes of South. I never thought I would change my name, or get married, or have children. At 16, they were symbols of subordination, but these bonds have given me freedom. Your name, your children, us.